Okay, so I just want to apologize. I didn't prepare anything because I didn't know I was presenting today, so this is kind of last minute pulled together. And I think I really just want to focus on what Hannah and I are up to and why we are different from any other gardener in Boulder. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and then give you some updates on what's going on this winter. So how are we different? There's a lot of organic, xeriscape, low water gardeners around here, and it can be hard to distinguish oneself from that, especially the bigger companies that are able to bring in a lot of equipment and their price is pretty low. So we like to focus on the fact that we are functional, ecologic, and we focus on beauty. We have a really good attention to detail. We really care about the plants. We take a lot of time with them and a lot of time with the customer to hear what, it's a two-way street, so we want to work together with people. So functional being, are those gardens productive? Are they for the bees? Are they for personal use? Ecological, low water use, unless it's for vegetable production or something functional in that way, and then really focusing on the beauty of everything. Hannah is an artist. Some of you may not know that. You should check out her Instagram. She makes really good artwork, and she has a really good eye. And I think that is a big distinguishing factor between a lot of other gardeners, as well as that attention to detail and that eye for beauty. We focus on small spaces because it's mostly just the two of us. Sometimes we bring on other people, but we're not really trying to do big commercial projects or huge properties. We just don't have the manpower or equipment. Maybe someday we will. So a few of the projects that we've tried to distinguish ourselves on, or just things that we try to do that I've never seen other people do, is we'll do hand-drawn maps of people's landscapes, identifying things, or even sketches of what things look like now and what they will look like. And that's just a nice added bonus. It shows that we care, and people really like that sort of thing sometimes if they're looking for that sort of thing. The other thing that we brought in this year that's been really fun is bouquet your yard. So we've had people who, they grow really beautiful flowers. They walk out, they look at these flowers, and it's beautiful, but we're trying to, Hannah is a florist also, and we tried to bring in, okay, it's great when you walk out and you see this beautiful landscape, but we could also bring that inside, and you can have it like at your kitchen table or your dining room table. So we worked with a few people this summer where every time we went, we would leave them a bouquet at the end out of things that just came out of their yard. And that was really fun for us, and that's no added cost. And I'll just show you some of this full screen, so no. But this is just an example of.
That's just from the yard?
It's amazing. This is just from one woman's yard.
Oh my gosh.
And
where does she live?
She lives in North Boulder.
You're not going to give me the address?
Jim, some of those were over the fence.
So in order to get something like this, we need to plant these sorts of flowers. But every week this woman got a flower bouquet that was like this lush and beautiful. And
Can I buy one from
And
her
that's
yard
on
next year?
Instagram, by the way.
so if you follow us on Instagram, we try to have really active social media because we know that's people like to see what's going on and the offers that we have. And so at Space Thyme Gardens is our Instagram, and you can also check us out on Facebook. We share some things on Facebook as well. And yeah, so that's just been a really fun additional extra thing we do. Not everyone is into it, but for those who are, it's been really fun. And so that's one of the big changes that came this summer in terms of working in people's yards. The other big thing that we try to distinguish ourselves with is sort of our mission and what we care about, and that is we really care about the state of the soil, water use, we talked a little bit about that in our presentation last year, more focus on that. And so Han and I met working on a ranch. We were really interested in agriculture, and we always try to come back to that and the things that we care about, which is really the state of the soil and water conservation, and how can we use those ideas, and how can we promote that caring when we're doing this sort of work, because it's really hard to grow food here. So a lot of times we just focus on flowers, but we always want to come back to like our intentions and our mission. And so one way we've been able to sort of emphasize that is this podcast that we started, which iTunes released 2 or 3 days ago. So you can look up Space and Time, and it should show up, and it's free, and give that a listen. And it's really not like a how-to gardening thing. It's more of a why, like why we do this work. And we've been focusing on interviews with various people in similar sorts of professions, and why they do the work that they do, and why we feel like this is important, because there's a lot of professions that are sort of overlooked, that you wouldn't even necessarily think about, and there are people behind those professions, and they really care about what they're doing, and we feel like those jobs are really important. It's really easy to get lost in literally the cloud of like, especially living in Boulder with all like the info sciences and computer stuff, and to lose touch of, we still have these resources and things around us that we need in order to make everything else work. So check that out. The other thing that we started is a monthly newsletter, so we can give updates on what we're doing, and then that's where like the tips, things to think about during the winter and things you can be working on. And we have a sign up for that on our website, on our Facebook, and any of you who we've worked for, I think is automatically getting those right now, if we have your email address. So those are just some things we've been working on. And I guess if anyone has any questions.
Question. When's the best time to plant an aspen tree that has a chance of actually living? I've heard it's kind of difficult to get aspens going. And do you do any trees? We
don't usually do trees. Aspens are really hard around here, and it seems like they're just getting harder because it's staying warmer.
Yeah.
Usually for planting, that's a good question. I don't know specifically for an aspen tree, but because some trees like planting in the fall and others are in the spring. I would guess, springtime, but aspens I wouldn't even recommend trying because the success rate is really low. But if you do want to try, that's something I can get back to you on the data. But we've never planted aspens for people.
First of all, I'm going to show you my thumb. It's not green. So, my question is, when fall comes upon us and your bushes and stuff lose their leaves, how do you know which ones to trim back and how far do you trim them back, that type of thing?
So usually things that are like shrubs don't really need to be taken back over the winter. In fact, leaving them can add a lot of like colorful interest over the winter. Things in general, the things that look really crappy are the things that you want to be cutting back. You can see they're kind of splayed over on the ground and they just look really
like
dead.
Sticks and they don't have anything on them. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Things that look obviously dead is the easiest answer, and just cut them a couple inches, leave a couple inches, but that plant is just trying to pull everything into its root system so it can survive over the winter. So having that extra stuff can help. It's like you're just getting rid of, you're helping it out in a way, because you're like, don't worry about it. You don't have to expend any more energy. I'm just going to get rid of this thing for you. But if it's not necessary a lot of the time. It's mostly just for aesthetics that we do that, because it looks dead, so we'll cut it back. But usually shrubby things don't need it, and more planty, softer things will take a cutting. And then And then the shrubs, a lot of times in the late winter, early spring is kind of when you want to trim them back. That way, if they become kind of tangled and messy. But again, a lot of that is for aesthetic purposes.
Oh. Do you have any techniques for keeping deer from eating things?
A high fence.
What's that?
A high fence.
How about raccoons?
Shotguns work.
Raccoons do?
A dog is great, yeah. That's been the best for the smaller things. Fences in some properties, and then I've used this what is it? It's like mountain lion urine or something. It smells horrible.
It smells, so it kind of takes away some from your garden when you walk in.
Okay.
That can be effective because, they smell it and they're like, oh, I don't want to mess with whatever's been here before.
Does it
But
change the flavor of the lettuce?
I definitely wouldn't.
It gives it a tang.
It's more like you put it around your things, but I think a lot of times it's just about, it's having a dog or a cat, and then fencing and having that fencing go into the ground. And it can be tricky with certain properties and certain animals. The other thing is covering things can be effective. We have one woman who has raised beds, and then she has these beautiful they're just covers, and it allows the sun to come in, but the animals can't get
With
to
that
it.
netting?
It's a netting, yeah, and that's been really effective for her because she couldn't get rid of the small rodents.
So we'll just take one more question.
Mine's a two-part question.
Okay, go ahead.
So, one, do you guys do herb gardens? Not like, marijuana, but like cucumbers. Two,
My house is
Yeah,
an
this-
herb garden.
Okay, that one's answered. Two, I have a basil plant that for the life of me, I just can't keep it going. Like, do you have any specific advice on basil?
Stop eating.
Bucket.
I guess I would need to know what you're doing, but, is it inside right now?
Yeah,
And it's just dying?
yeah.
I'm having actually a lot of success with my basil plant right now. I think that just, maximizing its light, and I would have to look at
Is it
it.
more direct or indirect?
It's hard to get full direct light. I would give it as much direct as I could this time of the year, yeah. And then, not too much water, like make sure the water's draining properly, but enough water to keep it happy. I would have to sort of see what the situation was.
Okay.
This was great, and I was impressed you got through your whole presentation without once using the word sustainable.
Well, thank you very
No,
much.
that's what you do.